Today we're talking about inspiring spiritual transformation, and we at Unity we've never heard that before, right? So before we dive into what that phrase means to me, and maybe it means the same thing to you, let's look at the back end, the transformation piece. What is transformation? Well, Webster's defines it as to change in composition, structure, outward appearance, change in character or condition. So I just want to tell you really quickly, there's been a lot of transformation this morning. Our sound guy is sick. We found out at 9:15. The special music that was planned is sick. We found out about 9:30. So we've been transforming and going with the flow and allowing it to be, right? We know what that is. Who here besides me and Virginia and Patty and Art are in a flow of transformation right now? Oh, good, I'm not alone. I thought, what if nobody raises their hands? Well, here's my response to that question. We all are all the time, right? Even if it's just the physical, those cells being regenerated. Every 7 years, we're completely new, right? Yeah. Did you know that? Every cell in your body has been reproduced every 7 years. So you look at the patterns of life, and all of a sudden you see someone after 7 years, and you say, gosh, they're totally different. It's because they are. So when we start talking about transformation, I believe that spiritual transformation began at one very special point in all of our lives. All of ours. It's at different points for each of us, but I believe that moment, the very first moment in your life, that you understood and felt deeply that you were loved and that you were safe and that you were worthy of all that you have, of all that you are. And I hope that most of us, that was early childhood. That's my hope. When we scraped our knees and we ran to our parents, we knew that we were in a safe place with someone that loved us, right? So I invite you to just close your eyes for a moment and go in your heart and in your awareness to that first moment. That very first moment that you can recall where you felt safe and loved, where you truly felt seen. That very first moment. Breathe into it. Let it be present right now. As I'm watching all of you, I'm seeing shoulders softening. I'm seeing faces softening with a warm smile. You see, I believe that moment is the demonstration of God's presence in our lives. Feel free to come back into this space if you want to. I believe that's the demonstration of God. That knowingness that there's something supporting me. There's an awareness. And then we realize that it's right here and I feel it. And it's not because of the other person. It's because I'm allowing myself to be safe enough to know it's there. So every time that we face a challenge like somebody doesn't come, I've had a change in relationship. Maybe I've lost my job. Someone in my life that I care about has made their transition, and all of a sudden I am faced with challenge. How many of us see challenge as being the catalyst for transformation to begin again? I believe that challenge is what tells us that we need to get back to that first moment, right? That challenge is what tells us we've been separated. We've lost our connection. And when we turn to Scripture, we find in Romans chapter 12, verse 2, and be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. The reason why I really like this, to talk about transformation specifically, is because when we start releasing the conforming of our minds to everything around us, when we start lifting the veils, as Eleanor so eloquently led us in that meditation, thank you. We're starting to see the truth in us. Those challenges force those veils to fly off of our heads, don't they? Those challenges, what is it? They call it the cosmic 2x4. So as we face these challenges and our veils are being thrown off, we in Unity see mind. There's two minds. There's the small mind and there's the big mind. And the big mind is that infinite mind, the divine conscious mind, right? So as we lift that veil, we're renewing our awareness, our connection to that divine mind that was so beautifully demonstrated when we first felt safe and felt seen and felt loved. So now that we've been talking about transformation, the title is Inspiring Spiritual Transformation, but that's not our whole mission statement, is it? Who knows it? Yay! Inspiring spiritual transformation as a vibrant, diverse, and inclusive community. Now, I have to tell you that there are some Sundays when I walk in and the energy is so high, I just can't slow down and I wind up like knocking people over because I'm moving too much. And then there are other days where it's nice and mellow and slow. And neither one is more vibrant than the other, I assure you. But it's because of that presence that was demonstrated that I discussed. That presence is what's being pressed into visibility as each one of you as a completely unrepeatable presence. And it is vibrant. And it is diverse. We have so many different people here, so many different economic status, so many different religious faith origins. We have an incredible sampling of beautiful people that are vibrantly showing up just as they should, as that presence of God. Now, there is one thing that I discovered, and that is when I decided to start polling everybody, who inspires you? I asked so many people throughout my life, and most of them were saying, why? Because they had to think about it. And it wasn't because they couldn't find somebody who inspired them. It's because they had too many, right? When you ask yourself, who inspires you? I think what most people described was that it took them a moment because it was just kind of blank. And once they opened up their awareness to who inspires them, all of a sudden, it was like pings of light coming at them, one person after another. Some they knew, some they didn't. So, what is inspiration to you? What does it mean? That's a true question. Anybody? Something that lifts you up. Connection? Is that what I heard? Nobody else gets inspired? Something that transcends the norm. So, since you all jumped up out of your seats and told me what inspires you, I'm going to ask you this question. Who's responsible for this? Eleanor? Eleanor is responsible for inspiring all of us. Is it Art's responsibility to fulfill this mission? Is it mine?
I am.
You are? Oh my gosh.
I am.
That's beautiful that there is this awareness that we all are in this together. I wanted to share with you a story about Denzel Washington. I know, ooh, Denzel Washington. I wish I could say that I asked him where the bathroom was, like I did Desmond Tutu, but I don't have that story. I was watching a commencement speech at Dillard University in Louisiana, so it was really hot. And Denzel Washington is offering this incredibly inspirational talk, and he's, of course, impassioned, as you imagine Denzel Washington would be. And there's a choir behind him, tons of people in the audience. And as he's speaking, I'm sitting there just envisioning this man that I adore from the movie Glory. Do you remember that movie? It's a movie about the Civil War and the Buffalo Soldiers unit who gave their lives willingly for the Union. And Denzel Washington takes this character, and there's such a scope for him. He starts as a released or escaped slave who winds up getting into trouble, being forced into the military, fights that, of course. And by the end, he's carrying the flag for his unit. And that scope of transformation is something that every time I see this man, it's kind of like Virginia's music. It makes me cry. Because that movie is so powerful. So I'm watching this man, and I'm sitting there crying. He's not saying anything sad. And I notice this woman that's right behind him in the choir, and she is in it. Everything he says, she says, yep. I can't hear her, but I can see the words in her mouth. I can see her lips moving. Yes. And I noticed it just stopped. And I got so distracted by the fact that she quit being engaged. So now I'm watching her, and I see that she has her program, and I thought, well, it's hot, but it's not moving. And so I'm listening to Denzel again, and then I see her thumb. And I thought, oh my gosh, she is feet away from Denzel Washington, people. And she's on her phone. And I thought to myself, now wait a minute. She's texting like, girl, I am right next to Denzel Washington. Aren't you jealous? But I don't think so, because then I see the thumb doing the scrolling, which that's only one thing, right? That's social media. She probably posted a pic and then got distracted. I don't know how. I mean, Denzel Washington, right? So she's scrolling. Denzel's talking. I'm no longer listening to Denzel either because I'm paying attention to this crazy woman who's on social media instead of listening to Denzel. I mean, pot, meat, kettle. Thank you, Terry. And that's when it hit me. Denzel Washington is being more inspiring than I can imagine as I'm telling myself I have to rewatch this video. And that's when it hit me. I am responsible for being inspired. We can choose somebody in the world and say, Monique, you are going to be my inspiration. And if I shut off, if I fall into that coverage of a veil of distraction, separation, is it Monique's fault that I'm no longer inspired? No. So how do we, as a community, inspire spiritual transformation? We ourselves have to be authentic in our connection with God. We ourselves have to start living the truths that we affirm, right? It's not just here on Sunday morning. We read our daily word. We read that affirmation. We feel great. Sometimes for 10 minutes until we get in traffic. And then we've lost ourselves, right? Sometimes. Others of us are really skilled and very zen and never have any challenges at all. I'm not sure, but I'm just covering my bases. But in truth, here we are. We have the power to choose to lift up what's important to us, choosing to speak that truth that we have within us, right? That voice of desire that rises up within you is the proof that God has given you that it's yours to take. That's from Denzel Washington. The desire that rises up within you is the proof from God that this is yours to take, to do, to claim. That sounds really familiar, doesn't it? That which rises up from within us is the presence of God pressing forth or attempting to, if we allow it to happen. So, I'm going to turn to Scripture one more time. And here we go to 2 Corinthians, chapter 3, verses 15 through 18. A veil over their minds. A veil lies over their minds, but when a man turns to the Lord, the veil is removed. When we turn to that inner presence, that demonstration of the awareness of God. Now the Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. We don't have to be afraid to be ourselves when we're expressing our true selves. And we all, with unveiled faces, beholding the glory of the Lord, are being changed into his likeness from one degree of glory to another. For this comes from the Lord who is the Spirit. I love that. We're being transformed into the likeness of God from one degree of glory to another. We're returning to that space of home, aren't we? Every time we allow ourselves to speak our truth, to live authentically, we are inspiring others to show up. We are inspiring others to express their true nature, to express that desire that's coming up within them that is the proof that God is saying it's yours to do. Thank you, Denzel. So I have one more thing to share with you, and this is a video. And I hope that when you feel it, that you'll stand up. You'll know what I mean. Talking about raising our consciousness, moving to that presence of God within us, renewing the truth and the hope that life is available for us. And as you are inspired, you inspire. And the cycle continues. We support one another. Within us that we can't deny. We cannot deny that we have that demonstration of God within us, filling us and connecting us to our inner truth always. So those who didn't stand up, I invite you to do that now. Stay standing. Don't be afraid. And I invite you to just lift your hands and stay and follow, repeat what I say. I inspire others. I choose to inspire others. I am inspired. And now we're going to go, woohoo! You may be seated. Thank you all so much.